Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. We are back for another, words I know how to speak, another Podcast.co AMA and demo.
Indeed. I'm feeling very festive.
I can see that. You're really decked out. You've got tinsel and everything there.
Tinsel, tree, Christmas jumper and everything.
Oh, you got any little mince pies with you?
Not a fan.
No. I actually do have a tin of roses just outside the office here that I'm just keeping just out of arm's reach. I'm not always eating them. Right.
Brilliant.
So yeah, if this is your first time joining us, what we tend to do is we'll do a quick run through of the Podcast.co demo platform as a demo, sorry. And then we'll be answering all of your questions.
Exactly.
So, should we just get straight into it?
Why not? Let's dive into it.
All right, here we go.
So just to address the Christmas situation, I believe this is the last live stream demo we're doing of the year. Daryl can correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
That is correct, yeah. So we're celebrating Christmas early.
We normally do them at the end of the month, but because the last Thursday of this month, as in December, is New Year's Eve, nobody's in the office. The Thursday before that is Christmas Eve, and once again, we'll all be out celebrating. So we're just going to do it early this month.
Yeah, and then the next one will be in January, probably.
Yeah.
So let's get stuck in with this one while we're here, shall we? So what I'm going to show you guys around today is my little example podcast that I've got here. But just to let you know where I'm up to in the whole sign up process, when you first sign up, you will have, you will have a screen that looks a little something like this. When you first start and you first log in. So if you're importing your podcast from another hosting platform like Libsyn or Acast or something like that, you click Import Podcast Settings right here and pop your existing RSS feed in. And then once you pop that in, it will grab all of your episodes and your title, artwork, all of that. You can give it a quick check over and then click Import Podcast, and that will bring everything across. And all that's left to do after that is apply a 301 redirect. If you're not sure how to do that, we do have a bunch of help guides for the different platforms in our help center, or you can fire us a quick message and I'll be able to send you the correct one out. So you've got a step-by-step process you can follow for that. If you're creating a brand new one, you can click Create a New Podcast here. Fill out the title, categories, language, bit of a description. And then once you've filled all of that in, you'll be exactly where I'm going to start this podcast demo from. So I'm not too far ahead of where you would be if you signed in for the first time. So I will take you through this little top menu here. And if anybody has any questions as I'm going through, obviously feel free to leave those in the chat and we'll be fed those at the end so we can answer all of your questions at the end in a nice little roundup. So first off, we've got this little home page here, and this shows you everything at a very brief glance. So this is just if you need to log on quickly, grab a quick idea of what's going on with your podcast, and then log back out again. So you've got the amount of published episodes. So these are the episodes that are live now. People can listen to them. You've got your total monthly downloads and your unique monthly downloads. So the difference between these two is just total monthly download shows you every single download your podcast has had over the last 30 days. And unique download shows you every single person that's downloaded over the last 30 days. So the example I usually give is if I was to download an episode of your podcast 4 times in a row, for whatever reason, monthly would show that as 4, but unique would show that as 1 because I'm one person downloading 1 episode, is basically the difference. Then this little graph over here on the right is just designed to give you a rough estimate of how many subscribers your podcast likely has at the moment. So this creates an estimate based on the average amount of unique downloads over your last 3 episodes that you've put out. And then from that, it will generate a rough estimate number of how many subscribers you likely are looking at. When you first get started as well, you'll have a little checklist down the bottom here. So it's just 3 little things that will help you get started with your podcast. Each one has a little video of me explaining every single one, just in case you need a bit more info. Once you've got those 3 ticked off, they'll disappear and you'll have these links instead. So a link to our free crash course on podcasting, a link to our production services in case you need help with recording or editing your podcast, and a link to our help center with all of our lovely help guides on there, just in case you get stuck with anything. I should mention on a normal account as well, you'll usually have a little chat icon sat in the bottom right, and that just gets straight through to our support desk. So if you do have any questions that aren't in the help center that you need answering, you can fire those into there as well, and either myself or someone else will get back to you. Next up is the episodes tab. So this is pretty straightforward. This is where the episodes of your podcast are going to live and appear. So in terms of uploading episodes, you can click and drag an MP3 into this window and it will start uploading. Or you can click the upload episode button here, and that'll just open up your file finder, and then you can upload the episode that way instead. So once you've uploaded the episode, you'll get this window appearing right here. And in here, you can enter in a episode title, a bit of a description. You can do separate artwork per episode if you want to. We don't generally recommend it just because not all directories actually accept individual artwork per episode. And also it's just nice to have the reoccurring logo so people get familiar with your logo and your branding. But you can do that if you would like to. There's an author field here. You don't have to fill that in. If it's just going to be the same person every single episode, that's fine. But some podcasts do like to bring on a guest host for an episode or two, for example. So in that case, you can override the main author of the podcast for those episodes and put the new author's name in there instead. Episode type, you've got full, which you'll be using most of the time. That's just a normal episode. But you also have tags for trailer and bonus episodes in there as well. Episode number and season number if you're using seasons. If you're not, you can just leave that blank. And then you have a content rating toggle here as well. So if you've got some naughty words in there, you can just turn that on really easily and mark it as explicit so the little children don't get hold of it. And then once you've filled all of that out, you'll get through to the final window, which is the publishing window. And this is just deciding when you want your podcast episode to go live. So public is live straight away. Nice and easy. Scheduled is if you want to schedule an episode up to automatically go out at a later date and time. So if you've got like 5 episodes all ready to go and you want to just schedule them up and have them go out automatically to give yourself a bit more time to go and make some more content, you've got a couple of different presets, or you can select a custom date and time here, like that. And then if I click schedule, it would go out automatically at that date and time without me having to touch anything. And then the final thing we have, pardon me, is the unlisted section. So this is kind of like a drafts section. Anything in here isn't publicly accessible. So a lot of people tend to use this if, for instance, they've interviewed someone who needs to approve the content before it goes out. I'm really sorry, I'm losing my voice. Before it goes out, you can pop it in there and send them the direct link to the episode. Then they're able to check that over, and then you can move it into published or scheduled when it's ready to go. So nice and easy. And you can look at any of these sections at the top here as well. On those episodes, you've got a bit more information. So share episode gives you a couple of different ways of sharing the episode out. You've got the embeddable player per episode right here. I'll show you some customization options for that in a little bit. Page is the direct link to this episode on the podcast page that we provide you with. Again, you'll see that in a bit more detail later on. File, this is the direct download link for this episode. We have a few users who have maybe WordPress websites and are using plugin players that need the direct MP3 link to connect up and be able to work those players. So you can access that really easy just there by clicking copy and then pasting it wherever you need it. And we have a integration with Headliner. Now, Headliner is a really cool program. I won't be able to open this up and go through it with you guys today, but we do have an article on the blog and a help guide for this. It's a really cool little tool. Basically, you click Proceed to Headliner. That will drag the audio into their editor. And then from there, you can create these sort of graphic style videos of your podcast content, which is super duper useful for if you want to make some promotional content for the episode before it goes live. You can knock the episode into there, clip out some really interesting things people have said, or some funny clips of the episode, and then make those into little videos with subtitles if they're under 5 minutes, which is pretty handy for platforms like Facebook where things start playing automatically without audio. So it's a really handy little tool to utilize, and I definitely recommend having a play around with that. You also have episode analytics over here. Now, mine are going to be absolutely dire because this podcast is not public, but yours will look a lot better than this, I'm sure. So as you can see, I'm doing here, I'm selecting a custom date range. So there's a few presets, or I can click a custom start and end date like I just did there. The top graph, let me get a bit more data. The top graph right there shows you, this is not going very well, is it? There we go. The top graph shows you your total and unique downloads per day. You can hover over a day to get an actual number for that as well. And the bottom two show you where your listeners are coming from in the world, and then what platform they're using to listen to your podcast as well. And you can hover over these segments to get an actual percentage for that too. So nice and easy, and really easy to break it down. And then just on the end here, you've got a couple of extra bits. So edit just brings up this window again in case you need to adjust any of the episode information. Replace media, if you accidentally upload the wrong audio file, you can come in here and upload the correct audio file without having to take the whole episode down and re-upload it. Move to unlisted is exactly what it sounds like. It just swishes the episode away into the unlisted section. And the transcription feature also lives in here. So if you want to provide a transcript of your podcast episodes, you can come in here, select the language of the main speaker, and then click continue. For an average sort of 30 to 40 minute podcast episode, you're looking at about 20 to 30 minutes of processing time. So just go away, get yourself a coffee or something, and then come back, see if it's done just by going into the same area. If it's done, it'll bring up the fully generated transcript of your episode. So that's pretty easy to use, and just a nice addition if you want to start providing that kind of thing. So moving on, I'll kind of whiz through this analytics window because it is pretty much the same as the episode one I just showed you guys, but this time it's for the whole podcast. So again, I'm selecting a custom range here by clicking a start and end date. I've got the graph at the top showing me my total and unique downloads per day, as before. And I've got the two graphs down the bottom again showing me where my listeners are coming from and what they're using to listen to my podcast. But I also have an extra graph over here on the left that just shows me what my most popular episodes have been during that period of time I've got selected. Now I only have 2 episodes uploaded to this podcast, but under normal circumstances, this would show you your top 10 for whatever period you've got selected. So that's pretty good for finding out what sorts of topics or people have been popular with your audience. We are also looking at adding in a download option into this section, so you don't have to keep coming in and out to get your stats. You'll just be able to download them all, probably as a CSV file, and then keep that as a record. Settings, this is important. So if you weren't paying attention before, now's the time to pay attention. Basic settings is pretty straightforward. This is just if you need to adjust anything to do with the basic layout of your podcast. So if you need to update the artwork or change the description a bit, you can do all of that in there pretty easy. It's advanced, that's the settings that we recommend that you go to as soon as you've created your podcast or as soon as you've imported your podcast. Doesn't matter which. Please come in here next and just take a quick look over, make sure everything lines up, because there's a couple of things in here that are regular troublemakers. The main one being time zone. If that doesn't line up with your time zone, the scheduling feature will be off. I've accidentally left that in an American time zone once before and accidentally published an episode out at 2 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. or something like that. So it's definitely worth just coming in here and double checking that that is lining up with your time zone. Author settings, just make sure those are filled in. If they're not filled in, it will by default pull in the account owner's name for the author name. So if you need that to be something different, like a company name or somebody else's name, just make sure that you've got that filled in. And then just making sure these little content settings match up with what you're putting out, just because Apple Podcasts can throw a little bit of a hissy fit sometimes if these aren't filled in correctly. So this is just pretty easy, whether it's episode by episode or in seasons, what language the podcast is in, and whether it's clean or explicit in nature. If you think most of the podcast is going to be explicit, I would label the whole thing as explicit here. If you think it's only going to be a rare occurrence or never, click clean here and then label the episodes as explicit, as I showed you before, as they go out. And then that way you're making it a little bit more available to people. If you're on the business plan, you do also get this little toggle here to turn our Podcast.co logos and branding off on the embeddable players and the pages, just to give you that cleaner white label look, if that's what you want. And then there's a box down the bottom here for connecting up any third-party analytics services. So that's services like Chartable or Podtrack, just to name the most popular two off the top of my head. So they usually give you a little link or a URL, and you just pop that into the box and click save, and you're all ready to go. Advertising is new, so this was added in relatively recently, I believe sometime last month or perhaps the end of the month before. So it's still pretty new. But essentially what this is say you've got a sponsor for the next 5 episodes of your podcast, for example. What you can do is you can go away and record that sponsor message separately and then upload it into your pre-roll section, for example. And then when you upload an episode, you'll have an extra little toggle to turn pre and post roll on. So you just switch that on and it will automatically apply whatever's uploaded into these sections to the beginning and end of that episode, respectively. So it's a pretty time-saving way of setting up that kind of thing. Share and publish. Now, this is usually where a lot of questions pop up. So if you do have any questions, remember to just leave those in the comments and we'll get back to you at the end of this little demo section. But just to go over it, we do have one-click distribution on the platform. So whether you're importing or creating a brand new podcast, you can use this. Because I do get that question quite a lot from people that are importing over. You can use this as well. So we do give you the option to manage this yourself. You can just click the I prefer to manage this myself option. Who would have guessed? That collapses out the way. Then you've got your RSS feed link right there. A link to all the guides on our help center about how to distribute to all these different platforms. And you have boxes to put all of the lovely links into your podcast on those different platforms once you get it back. If you'd rather we take over the process for you, you can click distribute my podcast there. And that sends a request off to our submissions team and they'll get started on that for you. So once they pick that up, you'll get an email request saying they've started working on it. An email request. You'll get an email saying that they've started working on it. You've spread your lack of English to me. So you'll get an email update saying that they've started working on it. All these icons start grayed out, like these ones. And as we get them approved, they'll turn to colored in, like this one here. And as you can see, I can copy the link to my podcast on that platform, or I can open up my podcast on that platform and take a look at it, make sure it's all okay. So that's just a really easy visual cue of how far along your podcast has gotten. Once we've submitted everywhere and we're just waiting for the different places to get back to us, you'll get another email update just saying we've done what we need to do. We're just waiting for everybody else. And then once we finish the whole thing, you'll get a final email update saying that we're done with all the links on it. And you'll be able to come in here at any time as well and just grab the links as and when you need them. So this whole process can take up to a week for a new podcast. So it's worth just bearing that in mind. And we do need at least one live episode or a trailer in your live episodes section before we can get started on this. So it's why we do recommend creating a trailer for your podcast. So this initial process can take up to a week. The main culprits being Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. But once your podcast is listed in all these different platforms, any episodes you upload after that point will be live within 24 hours everywhere. So you only have to go through the long process once. Podcast player. So this is the embeddable player, but with all the episodes on it this time. It is just worth mentioning really quickly before I start going over this one that there are some new designs coming for the podcast players very soon. So that's really exciting. So visually, they're going to look very different. They're also going to have a few extra buttons on there. So what I'm about to show you is how they sound at the moment, but just be aware we are getting some new designs relatively soon. So we have the embed code up the top here. You can just click copy embed and then paste that onto your website where you want it to sit. And you have a little preview down here as well. You can choose between a dark and a light theme, and you can change the color of the buttons on there to anything you like. So if you've got branded colors, you can easily just switch between what you need. You can turn the buttons between squared and rounded off really easily. And you can turn downloads, sharing, and subscriptions on or off, depending on what you want. Most people just leave all of those on, to be honest. There's not too many reasons you'd want to switch those off. Subscribe button is a handy-dandy little button you can have on your website to sort of neaten up the subscribing process. So again, you can choose between a dark and a light theme for this and change the color of the word subscribe to anything you like. Using the little color selector there. And you can select up to 5 directories your podcast is live on. When people come to this button on your website and they want to subscribe to your podcast, on hover, it will show those options. So people can click through and subscribe to your podcast super easily and super quickly. And then finally is the brand new page designs. So this is really recent. We gave the podcast pages we provide you guys with a complete overhaul. So this is some really exciting stuff. So I'll go through all of the functionality options here, and then I'll show you a good example of what one of these new pages looks like or can look like. So you have your default link at the top here. This is pod.co/ whatever your podcast name is. You can apply a custom domain to your page if you're on the Pro plan or above. So that just lies a little bit further down. So if you've got a custom domain set up and you want to use it with your podcast page, you can add that in there. We have a whole help guide on how to set all of that up and deal with that. Just below here, you've got an add a contact option. So if you want to add an email address to your page so that your listeners can contact you, or potential sponsors perhaps could contact you, you can just turn that on and pop in whatever email address you want into this section. And then people will be able to get through to you really easily and maybe talk to you about a sponsorship. That'd be nice. If you're on the Pro plan and above, you also get Google Analytics tracking. So if you want to set up Google Analytics on your page so you can track the traffic on there, you just pop your Google Analytics tracking ID into that box and save, and then you'll be able to grab whatever you need from that. You can connect up some social media channels down here. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You don't have to fill them all in, but whatever ones you have, you can fill in, and then people can click through and subscribe to your social media really easy. And then down here, you've got the option to add in some donation links. So if you've got a Patreon set up, you can connect that up. And we also have the option to add in a paypal.me link. If you have one of those set up as well, you can click through and donate really easy via the page. Design on the left here gives you a few different ways of customizing the actual color and font and visual aspects of your page. So you can adjust any of these, so like accent colors, the text, the body, and the background. You can also select a font for the page, which is quite nice. So we've got a few different options in here. And then down here, you can customize the header. So it does default to our color and wave, as you can see here, and you can select a color for that if you want to keep using that. You can also turn the wave off if you just want a solid color. If you'd rather have a custom background image in there that you've designed yourself, you can click background image there, upload the image. We have size guidelines for that in the Help Center. And then you have like a few different options for that as well. So if you want it blurred, image overlay, and also turning this header information on or off. So some people, they'll have a massive logo on their header image and they don't need this sitting over the top, so they just turn it off. About this, I think by default pulls in the description of your podcast from the settings section, but you can customize this in here if you want it to say something different. If you're on the Pro plan and above, you can also add in images and video into this section, just to make it look a little bit more snazzy. And then down the bottom, you can add in, if you're on the Pro plan and above again, you can add in a host profile so people can find out a bit more about the host of the podcast. So you can upload a little image of yourself, your name. You can create a funny little role here if you want. Like we've got Chief Weirdo there for some reason, podcast guru, all sorts, whatever you want. And then write a bit of description about yourself. And you can also connect up your own social media channels down here as well. So people can click through and follow you as a host. And see what you're getting up to. So just to show you a quick example of a really good example of one of these, we have this one, which is really nice. It's been set up really, really nicely. So as you can see, these guys used a big header image in the background here, and then turned that little header image off with the logo on and everything. And it looks very clean. You've got a list of all the episodes down the bottom here and a quick link to the trailer as well. So if you label your trailer as a trailer, like I showed you before, that will connect up there and then you can play the trailer really easy at the top. Subscribe just rolls out and shows the different subscription options, and share rolls out and gives you a few different ways of sharing the page with your friends, which is really nice. Down here, you've got the description right here. And then a little further down, you have the host section right here as well. So it all looks really clean, really nice. You can also link out to an external website. So if you want this to link up to your own website you've got set up, you can totally do that as well. That just grabs from whatever you put in the website URL field in the settings section. So super easy, and I think they look pretty snazzy, to be honest. And that's pretty much a very quick rundown of how a normal account would work. The only other thing to mention is if you are looking at moving over to Podcast.co with multiple podcasts, you can come to us on a network account, which will allow you to have multiple podcasts. So this just is an example of the landing page you would land on when you first log in as a network. You can see it's really nicely organized in a clean tiled design. So I can click through to whichever one of these podcasts I want to look at and work on. And also you have a little drop down here as well, so you can switch between them really, really easily. So super organized. And also if you need to add people to the account so they can manage their own podcasts, you can totally do that. You can add them in via email, and then you can also restrict their access so they only have access to their podcast and nobody else is on the network, so they can't mess around with anything they shouldn't be. And it's really easy to just set things up like that, so people have managed access. And that's the end of my very long spiel about Podcast.co.
Very detailed.
Very detailed.
Okay, great. Shall we move on to the questions then?
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so we got some in via the email that we sent out earlier on this week. Let me just bring those up.
Lovely.
So, first question is, I'm thinking of transferring from Libsyn. I don't want to lose subscribers though. Will I be able to keep my RSS feed? I have the free trial and I love your service.
Oh, that's nice. So first of all, it's totally possible to move from one platform to the other without losing anything. You just have to make sure that you follow the appropriate way of transferring over. So what you would need to do, if you've already got the free trial going, I'm assuming you've already done the import stage of grabbing your Libsyn RSS feed and importing that into Podcast.co. So good job on that. We've done step one. Step two is just to apply that pesky redirect, and this confuses a lot of people. There is a guide on our help center. So if you go to help.podcast.co, that's our help center. If you type in Libsyn on there, you'll be able to find the actual guide on how to apply that redirect. And it's in a step-by-step format, so it's really easy to just follow along and get that applied. And basically what that does is that tells places like Apple or Spotify, et cetera, that your podcast has now moved from Libsyn to Podcast.co, and they need to start looking at Podcast.co and not Libsyn. So that's basically how you would end up keeping all your subscribers in place, is just they'll switch out the feeds in the background. Your subscribers will never know, your listeners will never know. So that's basically.
If you're moving from any other host, it's the exact same process. It's not just Libsyn. So same with like BuzzFeed, Anchor, or anything else. If you just want to move over, then it's a really easy process.
Yeah, so you will have a new RSS feed with us, but it won't matter because it will have been switched out on places like Apple by the redirect.
Yeah, cool. How long does it take to upload all my episodes and get them in all the places? I know you mentioned this during the actual presentation, so it just depends on the distribution, isn't it? So Apple, as you mentioned, does take a bit longer. So it's generally just about a week.
Yeah, so Apple, we have been seeing them speed up a little bit, but as we're coming into the Christmas season, it might slow down again. We did just leave the Thanksgiving season where we had a whole week almost of them being very delayed. So it might get a little bit slow towards Christmas as well, as people start leaving the office for Christmas. But under normal circumstances, we have seen them speed up, actually. So it's been taking about 3 to 4 days instead of the usual 5 to 7, which is quite nice. So yeah, Apple takes a few days. Google can take an undetermined amount of time. Essentially, they pick up any public RSS feed automatically. So sometimes they pick it up super fast and you'll be in there within like a day or two. Other times it can take up to the full 7 days. So they're the only one that's a little bit unpredictable, unfortunately. But I've never seen it take any longer than 7 days. So 7 days should be fine.
Just for the first episode, isn't it? Once you've got your first episode out there,
yes,
it doesn't take that long again.
Yeah, so once you've got the first episode out there and you're listed everywhere, your episodes will appear within 24 hours on every single platform after that. So don't worry, it's just once.
If you are a bit worried about delays over Christmas, it's probably best to get a trailer up as soon as possible, at least.
Yeah.
When you are ready to release your episodes, if it is during the Christmas period, you won't face that delay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Can you monetize? I think that question means I monetize my podcast.
That's a very good question. The answer, the short answer is yes. The long answer would be yes, but it depends what method. So if you're going for sponsorship in terms of like approaching different companies and saying, hey, I have this podcast, sponsor me, generally they want you to have an established audience first. Unless you have a completely groundbreaking concept or some celebrity in your podcast, usually they want you to have an established audience first. So I know our monetization platform, for example, I think you need to be reaching, is it 10K per month? I'm pretty sure before we can let you into that.
Depending on your podcast is, and it all depends on who you want to be sponsoring with as well.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're looking at sponsorships and things like that, I'd wait until you've built up a significant audience and then start approaching different companies that are relevant. That's important too. Make sure that the companies you're getting to sponsor your podcast are actually relevant to your audience. So if you're doing a podcast on fishing, make sure it's like a fishing and tackle company, for example, something like that. However, that being said, there are smaller methods of monetization you can look at before you get to that point. So things like making a Patreon account to accept donations from your audience. It can happen. It does happen. Some people make actually quite a decent amount of money off of fan donations. So set up a Patreon, start getting some donations in, that type of thing. You can look at merchandise as well, but again, I'd say wait until you've got an established audience and you've actually ask them whether they would be interested in that type of thing before you go ahead and spend loads of money on shirts or something like that.
Yeah, so with Patreon as well, you can set it up so any of your Patreon subscribers, if they're paying for it, then you can provide extra content to them in the form of like a private podcast or behind the scenes stuff where you just send them a unique link. We actually do provide this service as well on the business plan for private podcasts. It's quite easy to set up. You just send them an invitation to listen to the podcast, and just a little bit of bonus behind the scenes stuff. It's kind of like, it's all you really want, isn't it? Just more content.
Yeah, it makes you feel special.
More of it.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel a bit special.
Yeah.
Another growing thing actually that I've seen people doing on Patreon is if you donate a certain amount, you get access to like a Discord chat. I've seen more and more people doing that, where they set up a Discord chat for fans, but you can only get access to it if you donate on Patreon. And then you get access to this private Discord chat with loads of other fans of the podcast, and you can all chat about it in there. And sometimes the host will be in there, and just to get like, it's a way of getting ideas for your podcast too. I've seen podcasters set that up so that they drop into the chat every now and again and go, "Hey guys, I'm running low on ideas. What do you want to hear?" And then use that as a way of getting some more ideas in for your podcast.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it as well. It just brings you closer to your audience, and it makes the audience feel closer to you as well. So it's just more engaging overall. Yeah, that's a great idea actually. Okay, next question is, how do I bring out the best of myself to fully record an episode?
It's a good question. By bring out the best in myself, I'm guessing you mean like have confidence
as a presenter.
Yeah.
I think when you're doing a podcast, you're doing a podcast about something that you're passionate about and that you consider yourself to be really, really knowledgeable in. So I think the best way to do that is just to really kind of believe in yourself and believe in what you're talking about. Just have the confidence within yourself.
It sounds so cheesy, but it's true.
Answer, but I feel like that's all you really need to do, isn't it?
Yeah, you just need the confidence. Yeah, you just need the confidence to like put yourself out there, and I am 100% on board with the whole like it's weird hearing yourself recorded and you instantly hate it because hearing yourself recorded is just the weirdest thing ever. But it's not about that. Like, people will find you interesting if you're genuinely passionate about what you're talking about. It'll come through in the way you deliver yourself and you deliver the script and everything. So yeah, just make sure that you're talking about something you're passionate about, and then just be confident in it and have fun as well, because it's instantly recognizable if you're just sat there reading off a script really bored. So make sure you're having fun, make sure you're talking about something that you actually like and are passionate about, and it'll be completely fine. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so next question is, can I bulk upload episodes?
Technically, yes, but also no. So there's a yes and a no answer. So if you're going straight through the Podcast.co upload area, then no, you can only upload one at a time. And the reason being is literally just because we need you to enter a title and description per episode. So if we let you bulk upload episodes, you'd be there for days. So technically the answer is no. But also the technical yes is we do have an integration with Zapier. So you can set that up to a Dropbox or a Google Drive folder. And you can drop your episodes into there, and they will automatically upload to Podcast.co as you put them into there. However, they will be uploaded to the unlisted section with some randomly generated title and description. So it is just worth mentioning that you will have to go back in and apply a title and description. I think there is a way of setting it up now, actually, so that it can pull in the MP3 title instead. So it narrows it down a little bit. But you probably will still have to like open it up and check it out. And even if you don't have to do that and it's all set up properly, you will still need to go in and move it into published or scheduled. One at a
what
time.
you can do to save time as well, you can set Zapier to set the title and description as the MP3 type name. So yeah, you will just need to go into them just to edit them anyway, but it will be there.
Yeah.
Cool. What audio formats can I upload?
So we really recommend MP3, purely because it's the most widely accepted format of audio on the internet. We do have a failsafe, so if you upload an M4A file, we will automatically convert it to an MP3 on our end. However, anything outside of that, we cannot convert. So please make sure you're uploading MP3 or the accidental M4A every now and then. But MP3 is the main one.
Yeah. Okay. What are the transcription limits?
That's a good question. So let's see if I can remember this off the top of my head. So the starter plan is 2 hours per month. So it resets every single month, is worth mentioning. But you get 2 hours per month on the starter. The pro is 5 hours. Yeah, Daryl's nodding. And the business is 10.
That is correct. I brought it
up. The business is 10 hours. So those are per month. They reset every single month. And with the pro and business, it's worth mentioning that those are across the network. They're not per podcast, so it's just worth bearing that in mind. You can purchase extra transcription hours by messaging us as well. I believe those come in blocks of 10 for $20, but you might just want to double check with us on that one.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
That sounds right.
Sounds right.
Cool. And final question I have here is, what is the pricing for network users compared to regular?
So this obviously depends what area of the world you're in, but I will go with dollars for now. So the starter plan, which is what we recommend for individual podcasters that just have the one podcast that they're working on and that's their child, will be $29 per month or $290 per year. So you get a bit of a discount with the yearly. You get 2 months knocked off of the price. Then the pro plan, which is the first network plan, which gives you enough room for 20 podcasts, that one is $49 per month or $490 per year. And then the top plan, which is our business, which gives you unlimited space for podcasts, that one is $99 per month or $990 per year. So depending on where you want, usually I usually recommend, if people aren't sure, start with the lowest applicable one to you. So for example, if you've got one podcast, but you're not sure whether you're going to need more in terms of other limitations, start with the starter plan, see how you get on, and you can always upgrade at any point really easily from in your account. So if you do find you need more space, just upgrade to pro, and you're sorted.
Cool. Very concise answer there. But yeah, that's it. Other questions? Have we got any more here in the chat?
While you search, I'm just going to go over the one that I get asked every single time, so I mention it in every live stream. Music licensing, my favorite topic. So this is just a question I get asked an awful lot. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast about music or involving copyright music in any way, the short answer would be don't. Unfortunately, there is no licensing out there currently that covers podcasts for copyrighted music. So you will likely end up stuck in a rut with Spotify tends to remove podcasts pretty quickly if they've got copyrighted music in there. You might also get a warning off of either Spotify or Apple or both, just saying please remove it as soon as you can. So it's still, you can still make podcasts about music, so like interviewing the artists or talking about music in general, and have some copyright-free music in the background. We have our own album. If you go to podcast.co/music, we have our own PodSafe album on there, with another one coming out early next year, probably. So Tom's working on that currently, so it should be out like early next year-ish. But we've got some PodSafe music for download on there. There are loads of other places you can get copyright-free music as well, really, really easily. So stick with that. Steer away from the copyrighted music and you should be completely fine. It's also worth mentioning that any radio people that are watching this, your internet radio licenses will not cover you for podcasts. There will be a clause in there somewhere that says you can't use it for on-demand content. So just be aware of that.
There's always a clause, isn't there?
There's always a clause.
It just reminds me of my favourite Christmas film, The Santa Claus. We got a question here now, based on that actually. Not the Santa Claus, but music. If your intro includes music from a company that you purchased, how do you prevent it from being blocked?
That's a good question. So yeah, there are places out there that will let you buy a specific copyright-free track for you to use in your podcast. So I would say if it's just in your intro and it's one that you've bought, copyright-free music sounds slightly different from like actual copyrighted music most of the time. So I would say you probably won't get caught out with that. However, if you did get caught out for whatever reason, I would probably say when you get the notification saying that it's been taken down temporarily, or if you get the copyright warning from Apple or Spotify, I would say just email them back with the receipt of the transaction, just saying that you have bought the license to use the song. Maybe link them to that company's terms as well, because it'll be in their terms about how you can use the track and where and when. So just send them the relevant information that they need to know, and just let them know that you have licensed it properly and you are able to use it, and they'll put your stuff back up once they've validated that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can prove you have permission to use that song, then you're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Yeah, cool. And then the final question I think we have is, how do you get people to talk to you on your podcast? So that is looking for guests, I believe.
It is.
So normally we would do a quick tour of this platform we also run called Matchmaker, but we are actually running a bit short on time today. So what I'll do is I'll drop a link in the chat here so you can check out yourself. It's completely free to join. It's really, really easy to use. And if you join now, there is actually going to be a free networking event next Thursday.
Yeah.
And
the first one of those was really, really good. It went really well. People found it really useful. You get a couple of different talks. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Daryl. You get a couple of different talks from some interesting people. And then it goes into some networking. So you'll be randomly matched with another person that's attending the event, and you can have a quick discussion about yourselves and what you're there for and what kind of podcast you'd like to appear on, or what people you're looking for. And it works really, really well, actually. It was
I think we're changing it a little bit for this one. So the talks will be happening alongside of networking, so you don't actually have to. You can skip out the talks and just do networking, or you can skip out the networking and just do talks, or you can do both. It's entirely up to you. It depends on what you're there for and what you're hoping to find. But yeah, it should be a really exciting one. There are a few special treats as well for Christmas, namely it being a free event. Normally it is for the pro plan users. So there is a paid plan on Matchmaker, which just gives you a few extra bonus features, usually including this monthly networking event. But because it's Christmas, we thought we'd just open up to everyone, let everyone see what it's about. So hopefully, just hop along to that and you'll find your next podcast guest in no time.
It's very generous.
Yeah, cool. So I think that is it for this month then.
Yeah.
Any final comments, Laura?
Gio, I think my only final comment is just to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, seeing as we're not going to see you before then. have a very Merry Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and a wonderful New Year. And we'll see you again in the new year for a new one of these.
Yeah. Hopefully 2021 will be a bit different to 2020.
Maybe we'll be actually in the same office, Daryl.
Probably not for the next one.
No.
I don't really fancy being in the office at 8 p.m. on a Thursday evening.
Yeah, no.
No, but I quite like being at home. Anyway, yeah, thanks for coming along. Thanks for all your information, Laura. If you do have any more questions, just drop us an email at hello@podcast.co or via the intercom widget, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. So we'll see you next time then.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, before you go anywhere, I have a quick question for you. Do you have a podcast? And if you do you want to book more interesting, high-profile guests on your show? Well, if you answered yes to either of these questions, I'd love to invite you to come and join our community over at matchmaker.fm. Matchmaker is a service that connects awesome podcasts just like yours with incredible and high-profile guests that make for really interesting conversations. It's really straightforward to get started and completely free to sign up. Just connect using your LinkedIn, Facebook or Google account, and then you can begin connecting with guests based on their area of expertise, location, and much more. If you haven't checked it out already, go to matchmaker.fm, get started. It's just like Tinder, but for podcasters.